The earth trembles, just slightly, barely enough to rattle the bronze scales hanging from Marcus Flavius's bakery ceiling. He pauses, hands deep in wheat dough, and waits. The vibration passes. It always does. It is the morning of August 24th, in the year 79 of the Common Era. Marcus has been a baker in Pompeii for 18 years. He has felt the earth shiver beneath his feet 1,000 times. Mount Vesuvius, that green, peaceful mountain rising to the southeast, has rumbled and grumbled for as long as anyone can remember. The mountain is part of life here, like the sea breeze or the summer heat. Marcus returns to his dough. He does not know that in less than 24 hours, Vesuvius will explode with the force of 100,000 atomic bombs. He does not know that superheated gas will race down the mountainside at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour, incinerating everything in its path. He does not know that 20 feet of volcanic ash and pumice will bury his bakery, his home, his entire city. He knows only that he has bread to bake, that his wife Lucia is still sleeping in the room above, that his daughter Prima will arrive soon to help prepare the morning's loaves, that he owes the fuller Stephanus 3 sesterces for cleaning his tunic, that the price of wheat has risen again, cutting into already thin profit margins. Marcus Flavius is 38 years old. He will not live to see 39. But right now, as dawn light begins to creep through the high window of his bakery on the Via dell'Abbondanza, Marcus is simply a man doing his work, the same work he has done every morning for nearly 2 decades. His hands know the dough, his body knows the rhythm, his mind is occupied with the small mathematics of survival. How many loaves will he sell today? Will the wheat shipment arrive on time? Should he increase his prices or risk losing customers to the baker 2 streets over? The earth trembles again, slightly stronger this time. A small amphora of olive oil teeters on its shelf. Marcus glances at it but does not move to steady it. The tremor passes, the amphora settles. He shapes the dough into a round loaf, his 8th of the morning. He places it on the wooden board with the others. Soon he will slide them into the great stone oven that dominates the back wall of his shop, the oven his father built, the oven that has fed his family and half the neighborhood for a generation. Outside, in the pre-dawn darkness, Pompeii is beginning to wake. A dog barks. Cart wheels rattle on stone. Someone is arguing in the street, voices carrying in the cool air. Another ordinary morning in an ordinary Roman city. Marcus has no idea this is the last ordinary morning of his life. Marcus rises at the 4th hour before dawn, as he always does. His internal clock needs no sundial or water clock. After 18 years of this routine, his body simply knows. The room above the bakery is dark and close. Lucia sleeps beside him, her breathing steady. He moves carefully to avoid waking her, though she barely stirs anymore when he leaves their bed. She has grown accustomed to his baker's hours, to the life of rising in darkness while the rest of the city dreams. He pulls on his work tunic, a simple garment of undyed wool, already permanently stained with flour, despite Lucia's efforts to clean it. The fabric is rough against his skin, worn soft in places from years of use. He owns 3 tunics. This is the oldest, reserved for work. The floor is cool stone beneath his bare feet as he crosses to the narrow stairway. He descends carefully in the darkness, one hand trailing along the painted wall for balance. The stairway opens directly into the bakery. His bakery, the smell hits him immediately. Old flour, stone dust, the faint char of yesterday's fire. It is the smell of his life. He lights an oil lamp from the embers he banked in the oven the night before. The flame catches, grows, pushes back the darkness. The bakery materializes around him, the great stone oven dominating the back wall, the wooden work table scarred by decades of use, the shelves where finished loaves will rest, the storage jars of flour and oil and salt, the scales for measuring, the bronze coins in their locked box. Everything is exactly as he left it 6 hours ago. Marcus crosses to the storage room and hefts a clay amphora of wheat flour. It is heavy, perhaps 40 pounds. He carries it to the work table and begins the process he has performed thousands of times. Measure the flour. Add water from the clay pitcher. Salt. Carefully measured salt is expensive. A bit of the sourdough starter he maintains in a covered crock, the culture passed down from his father, who received it from his father before him. His hands work automatically. Mix, knead, fold. The dough begins to come together. It is meditation and mathematics combined. Too much water, and the bread will be dense. Too little, and it will not rise properly. The starter must be just right too old, and the bread tastes sour. Too young, and it lacks flavor. Everything must balance. The rhythm of kneading is hypnotic. Push, fold, turn. Push, fold, turn. His shoulders warm with the work. His breathing falls into the pattern. This is what he is, a man who makes bread. Nothing more complicated than that. No grand ambitions, no political aspirations. Just bread, day after day, year after year. The earth trembles again. Marcus pauses, hands in dough. This one lasts longer. 3 seconds, maybe 4. The hanging scales swing gently. Dust motes drift down from the ceiling beams. From outside comes the sound of pottery breaking someone's cup or plate, knocked from a table, perhaps. When the shaking stops, Marcus returns to his kneading. Earthquakes are common enough. Last year there was a big one, big enough to crack walls and topple statues. The city spent months repairing the damage, but that was unusual. Most tremors are like this. Brief, annoying, quickly forgotten. He shapes the first batch of dough into 6 round loaves, each weighing exactly 2 pounds. He has developed an eye for it over the years. He rarely needs to use the scales anymore. He places the loaves on a wooden board and covers them with a clean cloth. They will rise while he prepares the next batch. Light is beginning to show through the high window when he hears footsteps on the stairs. Prima appears, his daughter, 14 years old and still sleepy. Her dark hair is hastily pinned, and she wears her work tunic better than his, but not by much. "The earth woke me," she says, by way of greeting. "It woke everyone," Marcus replies. "Check the starter. We need more." Prima moves to the covered crock and removes the lid. She sniffs, wrinkles her nose. It smells strong. Good. That means it is ready. Mix new flour and water, 1 to 1. Leave half the old culture. She nods and begins the work. They have done this together since she was 10 years old. Prima is quick and careful. She will make a good baker's wife someday, Marcus thinks. Or perhaps she will take over this bakery when he is too old to work. The thought pleases him. They work in comfortable silence. Marcus prepares more dough while Prima tends the starter and begins sweeping the floor. Outside, Pompeii is waking more fully now. Voices carry through the window, cartwheels on stone, a rooster crowing somewhere nearby. The normal sounds of a city coming to life. "Will Mother come down?" Prima asks. "Let her sleep. She was up late with the baby." Prima nods. Her younger brother Quintus is only 6 months old. He cries often in the night. Marcus can sometimes hear Lucia pacing the floor above, singing softly to soothe him. The first loaves have risen sufficiently. Marcus uncovers them and examines each one with a critical eye. Good, even rising, no cracks. He opens the oven door, heat blasts out. The fire he banked last night has been carefully fed with new wood while he worked. The temperature is perfect. Using the long wooden peel, Marcus slides the loaves into the oven. They will bake for 1 hour. The smell of baking bread will soon fill the bakery, then drift into the street. That smell is his advertisement. It draws customers better than any sign or announcement. While the first batch bakes, Marcus begins preparing more dough. Today is a market day. He will need at least 40 loaves, maybe more if the fish are running well at the port. Fishermen buy bread in the morning before heading out. Dock workers buy bread at midday. Household slaves buy bread in the afternoon for their masters' tables. Bread is the foundation of every Roman meal. Without bread, there is no meal. This makes Marcus essential. This makes him secure. As long as people eat, he will have work. It is a comforting thought. Primus sweeps in the growing light. Marcus kneads. The oven radiates heat. Outside, Pompeii continues to wake. Another earthquake trembles through, brief and weak. Neither Marcus nor Prima pause in their work. Just another morning, just another day. At dawn, Marcus steps into the street. The first batch of bread is cooling on the shelves inside. Prima is watching the second batch in the oven. Lucia has come downstairs with Quintus on her hip, and the baby's crying fills the shop. Marcus escapes gratefully into the fresh morning air. The Via dell'Abbondanza is already busy. This wide street runs east to west through the heart of Pompeii, connecting the Forum to the eastern gate. It is the city's commercial artery. Every shop along its length is opening now. Shutters are being raised. Goods are being arranged on counters. Street vendors are setting up their portable stands. Marcus nods to Tertius, the fuller whose shop sits 3 doors down. Tertius is already at work, treading cloth in the large vats of urine and water that give his profession its characteristic smell. The smell is powerful this morning. Marcus breathes through his mouth as he passes. Flavius. Tertius calls. You feel that shaking? Felt it, Marcus confirms without stopping. Getting worse, Tertius says. My father says it is a bad sign. Marcus does not reply. Tertius's father says everything is a bad sign. The old man sees omens in every bird flight and cloud formation. Marcus has no patience for superstition. He walks east toward the Forum, his sandals slapping against the paving stones. The street is paved with large blocks of volcanic basalt, worn smooth by decades of cart traffic. Stepping stones are set at intersections, allowing pedestrians to cross without walking through the mixture of mud, animal waste, and garbage that collects in the street. Pompeii is home to perhaps 12,000 people. It is not Rome, not even close, but it is prosperous. The city sits near the Bay of Naples, perfectly positioned for trade. Wine flows out through the port. Grain flows in. Fish, olive oil, garum, that fermented fish sauce Romans put on everything, all of it moves through Pompeii's markets. Marcus needs wheat. His supplier is a merchant named Gaius Blandus, whose warehouse sits near the Forum. Marcus owes him money, always owes him money, but Gaius extends credit because Marcus always pays eventually. It is a relationship of mutual convenience. As Marcus walks, he observes the city around him. The walls of buildings are covered in painted advertisements and political slogans. Vote for Gaius Julius Polybius for Duumvir, one reads. The innkeeper CN. Helvius Sabinus recommends Marcus Epidius Sabinus for aedile, declares another. There are also cruder messages. crude drawings, obscene jokes, declarations of love and hate scratched into the plaster. This is Pompeii. Rough, commercial, alive. He passes a public fountain where women are gathering to fill clay jugs. They gossip as they work, voices rising and falling in the morning air. One of them, Flora, the wine seller's wife, calls out to him, "Marcus, is your wheat still good? Mine has weevils." "Mine is fine," he calls back. "Buy from Gaius Blandus, not that thief Atticus." Flora laughs. Everyone knows Atticus cuts his flour with chalk dust to increase profits. The Forum comes into view ahead. It is the heart of Pompeii, a large rectangular plaza surrounded by temples, government buildings, and covered porticos where merchants set up shop. Already it is busy with morning activity. Vendors are arranging their goods. Officials are entering the basilica where legal matters are conducted. Priests are preparing the day's sacrifices at the temple of Jupiter. Marcus cuts through the Forum, skirting around a group of men arguing loudly about some political matter he does not understand and does not care to. Politics in Pompeii are fierce and complicated. Factions compete for municipal offices. Money changes hands. Promises are made and broken. Marcus votes when he must, but otherwise stays clear of such things. He has bread to make. Gaius Blandus's warehouse is on the north side of the Forum, a large structure with high ceilings and narrow windows. The doors are open. Inside, the dim space is stacked floor to ceiling with amphorae and sacks. The smell of grain is overwhelming, wheat, barley, millet, all mixed together. Gaius himself is directing 2 slaves who are moving sacks from one pile to another. He is a heavy man in his 50s, balding, with the permanent squint of someone who spends too much time reading contracts in poor light. Flavius. He booms when he sees Marcus. "Come for more flour already? Did you eat the last batch?" "Market day," Marcus says. "I need 2 more sacks." Gaius whistles through his teeth. 2 sacks. Let me calculate what you owe me already." "I know what I owe you," Marcus says. 43 sesterces. I will pay you 20 now and the rest after market day." This is the dance they do. Gaius pretends to consider. Marcus waits patiently. They both know how this will end. 25 now, Gaius counters, and the rest by the end of the month, not after market day. 22, Marcus says, and the rest in 2 weeks. Gaius sighs dramatically. "You will bankrupt me, Flavius. But fine, 22 now, 2 weeks for the rest. But if you are late, the interest goes up. The interest is already robbery. The interest is fair for the risk I take." Gaius gestures to one of his slaves. "Load 2 sacks of wheat for Flavius, the good stuff, not the cheap grain." While the slave works, Marcus counts out 22 sesterces from the leather pouch he keeps tied to his belt. The coins are small, silver, worn smooth by countless hands. Each one represents a day's profit, sometimes more. Handing them over to Gaius always hurts, but there is no choice. He cannot make bread without wheat. The slave brings the 2 sacks, each weighing about 60 pounds. Marcus hoists one onto his shoulder. The weight is familiar. He has carried countless such sacks over the years. His back twinges an old injury from dropping a sack badly 5 years ago, but he ignores it. "You feel those earthquakes this morning?" Gaius asks as Marcus prepares to leave. Everyone felt them. "My wife is nervous. She wants to leave the city for a few days, visit her sister in Nuceria." "Your wife is always nervous," Marcus says. Gaius laughs. "True enough, but still. The mountain has been smoking more lately. Have you noticed? Marcus has not noticed. He looks at Vesuvius every day. It dominates the eastern skyline, but he has long since stopped really seeing it. The mountain is just there, like the sky or the sea, part of the landscape. It always smokes a little, he says. More than usual, Gaius insists. And the springs have been running hot. The baths have to add cold water now. That is new. Marcus shifts the sack on his shoulder. The mountain has stood for thousands of years. It will stand for thousands more. Do not let your wife's nerves cost you money. Gaius grins, spoken like a man with bills to pay. Go on, Flavius. Make your bread. I will see you in 2 weeks with the rest of my money. Marcus leaves the warehouse and begins the walk back toward his bakery. The sack is heavy on his shoulder. The sun is higher now, warming the air. It will be a hot day. August is always hot in Pompeii, but this year seems worse than most. The heat presses down like a physical weight. He passes the temple of Apollo on his way out of the forum. Smoke rises from the altar where morning sacrifices are being offered. He can hear the priest chanting, though he cannot make out the words. Marcus is not particularly religious. He makes the required observances, honors the household gods, but he does not spend much time thinking about the divine. The gods do as they please. Men do what they can. As he walks, the earth trembles again. This time it is stronger, strong enough that Marcus stops and sets down his sack to keep his balance. Around him, others do the same. Conversations pause. Everyone waits. The shaking lasts perhaps 5 seconds. Not long, but long enough to be concerning. When it stops, there is a moment of collective silence. Then conversations resume. People return to what they were doing. But Marcus notices something. Everyone is looking east, toward Vesuvius. The mountain stands there, green and solid and familiar. A thin plume of smoke rises from its summit, thinner than usual, Marcus realizes. Gaius was right about that. The smoke seems thicker than it used to be. But then, maybe it has always been that way, and he simply never paid attention. He hoists the sack back onto his shoulder and continues walking. He has bread to make. Whatever the mountain is doing or not doing, it does not change that fundamental fact. People need bread. He makes bread. Life continues. By the time he reaches his bakery, the sun is fully up. The day has begun in earnest. Prima is pulling the second batch of loaves from the oven. Lucia has taken Quintus back upstairs, and blessed quiet has returned. Marcus sets down the sack of flour and rolls his shoulder to ease the ache. Father, Prima says, that last earthquake was strong. It was, Marcus agrees. The fuller's wife says the gods are angry. The fuller's wife says many things. Prima smiles slightly at that. She returns to her work. Marcus begins preparing more dough. The morning's drama is over. Now comes the steady rhythm of production. Mix, knead, shape, bake. Mix, knead, shape, bake. The endless cycle that defines his days. Outside, Pompeii goes about its business. Inside, Marcus makes bread. This is what he does. This is who he is. Nothing more complicated than that. By mid-morning, the bakery is fully operational and the street counter is open for business. 15 loaves sit cooling on the shelves, arranged in neat rows. Prima tends the counter while Marcus works in the back, preparing more dough for the afternoon's baking. The first customers arrive early, house slaves mostly, sent by their masters to purchase bread for the day's meals. A boy no more than 12 buys 3 loaves for his household. An elderly woman counts out bronze coins with shaking hands to purchase a single loaf. A portly merchant's slave negotiates for a dozen loaves, trying to get Marcus to lower his price. Prima handles each transaction with practiced efficiency. 2 asses per loaf, she says firmly to the merchant slave. That is the price. Take it or go to another baker. The slave grumbles but pays. Everyone knows Marcus's bread is better than the alternatives. He uses good flour and maintains his starter carefully. His loaves are consistent in weight and quality. You get what you pay for. Marcus listens to these transactions while he works, kneading dough with steady rhythm. The morning's wheat delivery has been transformed into pale, elastic mass that springs back under his hands. This batch will yield 20 loaves. With the 15 already cooling and the 12 currently baking, that will give him 47 loaves total by midday, enough for a good market day, maybe even enough to put aside a small profit after paying Gaius and covering other expenses. The earth trembles again, 4th time this morning. 5th, Marcus has lost count. This one is brief but sharp. Sharp enough that the scales hanging from the ceiling swing violently and several customers in the street outside cry out in surprise. Prima appears in the doorway. Father, people are starting to leave the city. Marcus looks up from his dough. What? The fuller says his whole family is going to his cousin's farm. He says the earthquakes mean something bad is coming. Marcus snorts. The fuller is superstitious. His father probably told him he saw a raven flying backwards or some such nonsense. But others are leaving too. The wine merchant, the jeweler, they are packing their carts. Then they are fools wasting a good market day. Marcus says firmly, we are not leaving. We have work to do. Prima hesitates. But what if... Prima. Marcus's voice is patient but final. I have lived in Pompeii for 38 years. Your grandfather lived here before me. Your great-grandfather before him. The earth shakes sometimes. It always has. Do you know how much money we will lose if we abandon a market day? Yes, Father. More than we can afford to lose. Now go back to the counter. Customers are waiting. Prima returns to the front. Marcus can hear her voice, cheerful and professional, as she serves the next customer. Good girl, sensible girl. She understands the mathematics of survival better than these panicking neighbors. But as Marcus returns to his kneading, he cannot quite shake a small worm of unease in his gut. The earthquakes are more frequent today. That is undeniable, and stronger too. Nothing catastrophic, nothing like the big quake last year, but enough to be noticeable. He glances toward the high window. From this angle he can see only sky, a perfect, cloudless blue. Beautiful day, hot but beautiful, not the kind of day that suggests disaster. The dough under his hands is perfect now. He divides it into portions, weighing each one carefully with the scales to ensure consistency. 2 pounds per loaf. That is the standard. That is what customers expect. Deviation costs trust, and trust is the only real currency in a commercial city like Pompeii. As he works, a new customer arrives at the counter. Marcus recognizes the voice immediately. Stephanus, the fuller whose shop sits 3 doors down. The man who was treading cloth in urine when Marcus passed this morning. Prima, is your father here? Stephanus asks. In the back, Prima calls. Stephanus appears in the doorway. He is a thin man, perpetually worried-looking, with the reddened hands of someone who works with harsh chemicals all day. He wrings those hands now, his face tight with anxiety. Flavius, he says, I am closing my shop, taking my family to my brother's villa near Nuceria. I wanted to warn you. Marcus continues shaping dough. Warn me of what? A few earthquakes? We have had them before. Not like this, Stephanus insists. Not so many, so close together. And the mountain you have seen the smoke? I have seen smoke from Vesuvius my entire life. Not like this, Stephanus repeats. Flavius, I am a practical man. I do not run from shadows. But something is wrong. I feel it. My wife feels it. Even my children feel it. We are leaving while we can. Marcus sets down the dough and looks at Stephanus directly. And what will you do with your shop? Your business? You have contracts to fulfill, cloth to clean. Stephanus waves a hand dismissively. Let the contracts wait. Cloth can be cleaned next week. This is more important. More important than your livelihood? More important than my life, Stephanus says quietly. The words hang in the air between them. Marcus wants to laugh, to dismiss this as more superstitious nonsense, but something in Stephanus's face stops him. The fuller is genuinely frightened, not nervous, not anxious, frightened. How long will you be gone? Marcus asks. A few days, maybe a week, until the earthquakes stop and things return to normal. And you are warning me because? Because you are my neighbor, Stephanus says simply. Because I have bought bread from you for 10 years. Because your daughter plays with my daughter. Because this is what neighbors do, warn each other when danger comes. Marcus feels irritation flare. There is no danger. You are panicking over nothing. Then I will look foolish when I return next week, Stephanus says. I can live with that. Can you live with being wrong? Before Marcus can respond, the earth trembles again. This one is different. Stronger. Much stronger. It lasts 10 seconds, maybe more. The entire bakery seems to sway. Flour dust rains down from the ceiling beams. The scales crash against the wall. An amphora falls from a high shelf and shatters on the floor, spreading olive oil in a wide, dark pool. Prima screams. From upstairs comes the sound of Quintus wailing and Lucia shouting something Marcus cannot make out. Outside in the street, people are yelling. A cart has overturned. A woman is crying. When the shaking finally stops, Marcus is gripping the edge of his work table, knuckles white. His heart hammers in his chest. Stephanus is braced against the doorframe, face pale. Still think there is no danger? Stephanus asks quietly. Marcus does not answer. He is staring at the ceiling, at the fine cracks that have appeared in the plaster, new cracks, fresh cracks. As he watches, a small chunk of plaster falls and hits the floor with a soft thump. We are leaving within the hour, Stephanus says. If you have sense, you will do the same. He turns and walks out, leaving Marcus standing alone in his bakery, surrounded by the tools of his trade, by the work of his life, by everything he has built. Lucia appears at the top of the stairs, baby on her hip, Prima beside her. All three are looking at him with wide eyes. Marcus, Lucia says, should we go? He opens his mouth to say no, to insist that this is foolishness, that they have work to do, that they cannot afford to lose a market day. But the words stick in his throat. Those cracks in the ceiling, the violence of that last quake, the increasing frequency all morning, the smoke from the mountain, thicker than usual, the hot springs running hotter, all the small signs he has been ignoring because acknowledging them would mean acknowledging something he does not want to face. But if he is wrong, Marcus? Lucia repeats. He looks at his wife, his daughter, his infant son. He looks at his bakery, the oven his father built, the work table scarred by decades of use, the shelves of bread cooling in neat rows. His life's work? His family's legacy? No, he says finally. We stay. Finish the baking. We will watch and see. But we will not run like frightened children because of a few earthquakes. Lucia's face tightens, but she does not argue. She knows better. When Marcus makes a decision about the bakery, about the business, That decision is final. She turns and carries Quintus back upstairs. Prima returns to the counter without a word. Marcus goes back to his dough. His hands shake slightly as he shapes the loaves. He tells himself it is just fatigue. Just the normal tremor of muscles worked hard all morning. Not fear. Not doubt. Just fatigue. Nothing more. At midday, Marcus takes a break. 37 loaves have been sold. 10 remain. Prima is managing the counter while he sits on a stool in the back, eating bread and cheese. The bread is from yesterday's batch, still good, but starting to dry out. He tears off pieces and chews slowly, washing it down with watered wine from a clay cup. The cheese is sharp and salty. Lucia makes it herself from goat milk she buys from a vendor near the amphitheater. The street outside has changed character since morning. It is less crowded now. Marcus notices this as he eats. Where morning brought bustling commerce and cheerful noise, midday brings an odd quiet. Some shops have closed their shutters. He can see 3 carts heading toward the western gate, loaded with household goods, people leaving, just as Stephanus did. Marcus eats his bread and tries not to think about it. Prima appears in the doorway. Father, Gaius the baker, is at the counter. Marcus sets down his bread. Gaius the baker, no relation to Gaius the grain merchant, runs a competing bakery 2 streets over. The man is 10 years older than Marcus, with a reputation for watering his dough to stretch his flour. They are not friends. They are barely civil to each other. What does he want? Marcus asks. He says it is important. Marcus sighs and stands. His knees crack. He is getting old, he realizes, 38, and his body already protests the daily work of baking. How many more years can he do this? 10, 20 if he is lucky? And then what? Prima will have to take over. Or he will have to sell the business. Or he shakes off these thoughts and walks to the counter. Gaius the baker is there, looking even more tired and flour-dusted than Marcus feels. The man's face is grim. Flavius, Gaius says. A word? What do you want, Gaius? I am closing my bakery, leaving the city, tonight, as soon as I can arrange transport. Marcus crosses his arms. You too? Is everyone in Pompeii suddenly overcome with madness? Have you been outside? Gaius asks. Have you actually looked at the mountain? I have looked at the mountain every day of my life. Then look again. Really look. Against his better judgment, Marcus steps out from behind the counter and into the street. He looks east, toward Vesuvius. The mountain stands there as it always has, green slopes rising to the rocky summit. But Gaius is right, something is different. The plume of smoke rising from the peak is much thicker now, much darker. It rises straight up in a column, spreading out at high altitude like the branches of a pine tree. As Marcus watches, the earth trembles again, lighter this time, barely noticeable, but he sees the effect on the mountain. The smoke column shudders. A new burst of darker smoke pulses upward. I have been baking bread in Pompeii for 25 years, Gaius says quietly, standing beside him. I have seen the mountain smoke before, never like this. This is new. Marcus wants to argue, wants to find some explanation that makes sense, that allows him to dismiss this growing unease and return to his work. But the smoke column towers above the city now, clearly visible, undeniable. The earth has been shaking all morning, Gaius continues, getting stronger, more frequent. That is not normal. You know it is not normal. What do you expect me to do? Marcus asks, hearing the frustration in his own voice. I have 43 sesterces of debt to Gaius Blandus. I have a bakery to run. I have a family to feed. I cannot just leave. You have a family to protect, Gaius corrects. By abandoning everything we have? By running away like cowards? By staying alive, Gaius puts a hand on Marcus's shoulder. The gesture is unexpected, almost fatherly. Flavius, I know what this bakery means to you. I know what it means to build something with your own hands, to feed your family from your own work. I have the same. But none of it matters if we are dead. You do not know that anything bad will happen. I know that I would rather be wrong and alive than right and dead. Gaius removes his hand. I am telling you this not as a competitor, but as a fellow baker, as someone who understands what you are facing. Leave, Flavius, while you still can. He turns and walks away, heading back toward his own bakery to prepare for his departure. Marcus stands in the street, watching him go. Around him, Pompeii continues its afternoon routine, though more quietly than usual. The sense of normalcy is cracking. People glance at the mountain. Conversations are subdued. Fear is creeping in, unspoken but palpable. Prima appears beside him. What will we do, father? Marcus looks at his daughter. She is 14 years old, still a child in many ways. Though she works as hard as any adult, she trusts him to make the right decision. She believes he knows what to do. The weight of that trust is crushing. We will finish the day, he says. Sell the remaining loaves, clean the bakery, have dinner. Then we will decide. If the situation worsens, we will leave tomorrow morning, early, before the crowds. Does that seem reasonable? Prima nods slowly. Yes, father. Good. Go help your mother with Quintus. I will watch the counter. She disappears back inside. Marcus remains in the street, staring at Vesuvius. The smoke column continues to rise, dark and ominous against the blue sky. As he watches, it seems to grow thicker. Or perhaps that is just his imagination. Perhaps he is seeing danger where none exists because others have planted that fear in his mind. He does not know. That is the terrible truth. He does not know. All he knows is bread, how to mix flour and water and salt and culture, how to knead until the gluten develops, how to shape loaves, how to judge oven temperature by feel, how to feed a family through honest work. He does not know mountains. He does not know earthquakes. He does not know signs and omens and the language of nature warning of disaster. He knows only bread. And right now, with 10 loaves left to sell and a family to feed and debt to pay, bread is all he can afford to think about. He returns to his counter and waits for customers who are increasingly slow to arrive. The afternoon brings more earthquakes. Marcus has lost count now. They come every few minutes, some barely perceptible, others strong enough to rattle the shelves. Each one sends Prima's eyes darting toward him, seeking reassurance he is less and less able to provide. By the 8th hour, only 3 loaves remain unsold. The street outside is nearly empty. Most shops have closed. Even the wine seller, who usually does brisk business in the afternoon, has shuttered his counter and disappeared. The Via del Abbondanza, normally bustling with commerce and conversation, feels abandoned. Marcus stands at his counter, arms crossed, watching the empty street. Behind him, Prima is cleaning the work table. Upstairs, he can hear Lucia singing to Quintus, trying to keep the baby calm despite the regular trembling of the earth. A cart passes, heading west toward the Herculaneum gate. It is loaded with furniture, clothing, cooking pots, an entire household on the move. The man driving the cart does not look at Marcus. His face is set with determination and fear. Marcus feels something loosen in his chest, some knot of stubbornness that has been keeping him here, insisting everything is fine, refusing to acknowledge what is becoming increasingly obvious. They need to leave. The admission brings no relief, only a cold, spreading dread, because leaving means abandoning the bakery, abandoning the oven his father built, abandoning the business that has fed 3 generations of his family, abandoning everything. But Prima, Lucia, Quintus, they matter more than ovens and flour and copper coins. He turns toward the bakery interior. Prima, he calls. We are closing. She appears immediately, relief clear on her face. We are leaving? Tomorrow morning, first light. Pack only what we need. Food, water, blankets, money. Anything else is too heavy. What about the oven? The oven stays. But father, the oven stays, Marcus repeats firmly. We take what we can carry, nothing more. Prima nods and hurries upstairs to tell Lucia. Marcus begins closing the shutters, preparing to secure the bakery. As he works, a thought occurs to him. What if he is wrong? What if he abandons everything for nothing? What if tomorrow brings calm weather and settled earth, and he has thrown away a profitable market day, angered his creditors, and looked like a fool in front of the entire neighborhood? He pushes the thought away. Better to be a living fool than a dead hero. He is reaching for the last shutter when he feels it. Not an earthquake this time, something else, a deep vibration, barely on the edge of perception, like distant thunder, but constant, unceasing. Marcus goes still, listening. The vibration continues. It is coming from the east, from the direction of Vesuvius. He steps into the street and looks toward the mountain. The smoke column has changed. It is no longer rising straight up. Now it bulges and roils, dark gray shot through with black. It towers into the sky, blotting out the eastern horizon, and at its base, where the mountain's summit should be, there is a glow, red, pulsing. As Marcus watches, frozen, the mountain explodes. The sound arrives 3 seconds later, not a bang or a crack, but a roar deep, primal, world-ending. It is the sound of the earth itself tearing open. Every building in Pompeii shakes. The paving stones beneath Marcus's feet buck and heave. The shutters he just closed swing open again, banging against the wall. Prima screams from inside the bakery. Quintus wails. All around, people pour into the street, pointing, shouting, staring at the mountain in horror. The smoke column is erupting upward with impossible speed. It rises and rises and rises, expanding outward, blocking the sun. Darkness spreads across the eastern sky. Lightning flashes within the roiling clouds, not normal lightning, but fierce and constant, illuminating the ash from within. And then Marcus sees what is falling from those clouds. Pumice. Thousands of pieces of pumice, pale and light, drifting down like snow. They start small pebble-sized stones that clatter on the roof tiles and bounce in the street, but they are getting larger, fist-size now, and more of them. The sky is full of falling stone. Someone near Marcus is hit on the shoulder by a piece of pumice. The man cries out and falls to his knees. Blood spreads across his tunic. The pumice did not look heavy, but moving at speed. Inside! Marcus roars. Everyone inside. He runs back into his bakery. Prima and Lucia are at the bottom of the stairs, Lucia clutching Quintus, both women's faces white with terror. We need to leave, Lucia says. Now. Right now. We cannot, Marcus says, forcing himself to think clearly despite the panic clawing at his mind. Look at the street. The pumice is falling too fast. We would be killed before we reach the gate. Then what do we do? Marcus looks around his bakery. Stone walls, solid construction, but the roof is tile, and tile will not protect them from pumice. They need to be somewhere with a strong roof, somewhere that can withstand the bombardment. The Forum, he says. The basilica. It has a vaulted ceiling. Stone. We go there and wait this out. Wait it out? Lucia's voice rises toward hysteria. Marcus, the mountain is exploding! And running into the street will get us killed. We move carefully. We protect our heads. We stay close to the buildings where the overhangs give some shelter. We get to the basilica and we wait. It is not a good plan, but it is the only plan they have. Marcus grabs blankets from the storage room and hands them to Lucia and Prima. Hold these over your heads. They will not stop the pumice, but they will help. He looks at Prima. You stay close to me. Do not run ahead. Do not fall behind. Understood? Prima nods, terrified but trying to be brave. They move to the door. Outside, the street is chaos. People are running in all directions. Some toward the western gates, some toward their homes, some just running with no destination in mind. The pumice falls steadily now, a lethal hail that shows no sign of stopping. Bodies lie in the street, people struck down by the larger stones, injured or dead, abandoned in the panic. Marcus wraps a blanket around his own head and shoulders. He takes Prima's hand. Stay with me, no matter what. They step into the nightmare. The journey to the Forum takes 20 minutes. It should take 5. They move in short bursts, running from doorway to doorway, sheltering under porticos and overhangs whenever the pumice falls too thick. The blankets help, but not enough. Marcus feels impacts on his back, his shoulders. Each one stings. Some draw blood. Beside him, Prima whimpers but keeps moving. The darkness is nearly complete now. The ash cloud has swallowed the sun. The only light comes from fires that have started throughout the city buildings, ignited by hot pumice, burning despite the stone construction. The orange glow flickers through the dust and falling stone, turning Pompeii into something from myth, something hellish. They pass bodies. More bodies than Marcus wants to count, some clearly dead, skulls crushed by pumice, others injured and calling for help. Marcus keeps moving. He hates himself for it, for walking past a dying woman who reaches toward them, for ignoring the old man pinned under a fallen column, but he has his family to save. He cannot save everyone. Prima is sobbing now. Lucia has gone silent, her face blank with shock. Quintus screams constantly, the sound cutting through the roar of the eruption and the chaos of the fleeing city. A piece of pumice the size of Marcus's head crashes down 3 paces ahead, shattering on the paving stones. If he had been moving faster, if he had not paused at the last corner, they reach the Forum. It is packed with people, hundreds of them, maybe more, all seeking shelter in the covered porticos and buildings. The basilica doors are open. People are streaming inside, pushing and shoving in their desperation. Marcus forces his way through the crowd. Prima's hand gripped tight in his, Lucia pressed close behind. They make it through the doors just as another wave of pumice hammers down. The sound on the basilica's stone roof is deafening, a constant thundering that makes thinking almost impossible. Inside, the basilica is dark and crowded and smells of fear. People huddle against the walls. Children cry. Someone is praying loudly to Jupiter. Someone else is screaming about divine punishment. The air is thick with volcanic dust that makes breathing painful. Marcus finds a space against the north wall and pushes his family into it. Stay here, he orders. Do not move. Do not go outside. Where are you going? Lucia demands. To see what is happening, to understand what we face. Marcus, no. But he is already moving back toward the entrance. He needs to see, needs to know, is this temporary? Will it stop? Can they survive this? He reaches the basilica doors and looks out into what was once the Forum of Pompeii. The devastation takes his breath away. Pumice already covers the ground 6 inches deep, maybe more, and still falling. The beautiful temples that ring the Forum are damaged, their columns cracked, their roofs caved in. The statue of Jupiter has fallen and shattered. Fires burn in several buildings despite the rain of stone. The air itself seems to glow red from the reflected firelight and the lightning that never stops flashing in the clouds above. And through it all, people are still running, still trying to escape. A woman stumbles and falls, her child torn from her grasp. A man tries to pull a cart loaded with possessions, but the pumice is too deep now, and the wheels will not turn. He abandons it and runs. Marcus watches them and feels cold certainty settle in his gut. This is not temporary. This will not stop. Vesuvius has erupted and Pompeii is dying. They need to leave the city. Now, while they still can, before the pumice gets too deep to walk through, before the buildings start to collapse under the weight of accumulating stone, he turns back into the basilica and pushes through the crowd to his family. Lucia looks up at him, sees his face, and knows. "We have to go," he says. "Go where?" she asks. "Out there. We will be killed. If we stay here, we die. The pumice is accumulating. Eventually this roof will collapse. Eventually we will be buried. Our only chance is to get out of the city, head inland, away from the mountain." "But the pumice," "I know, but it is falling slower now. Smaller pieces. We can protect ourselves with the blankets. We can make it if we move quickly." Lucia looks at Prima, at baby Quintus in her arms, then back at Marcus. "Are you certain?" "No." He is not certain of anything, but he cannot say that, so he lies. "Yes, I am certain. We can survive this if we move now." She nods slowly. "Then we go." They gather their few possessions, the blankets, a bag with bread and cheese that Lucia grabbed before they left the bakery, a water skin. Marcus ties the blanket around his head and shoulders, making sure it covers as much of him as possible. He does the same for Prima, then helps Lucia wrap herself and Quintus together, the baby protected between her body and the fabric. "Stay close," he says. "We head west, out the Herculaneum gate. Do not stop. Do not look back. Just keep moving." They move to the basilica entrance. Outside, the darkness is absolute. The pumice continues to fall. Though Marcus is right, it is smaller now, less deadly. But the accumulation is deeper, knee-deep in places. Walking will be difficult. Marcus looks at his wife and daughter. "Ready?" They nod. He steps out into the apocalypse. His family follows. They do not make it out of the city. The journey west, toward the Herculaneum gate and the promise of escape beyond, becomes impossible after only a few hundred paces. The pumice is too deep. Marcus tries to push through, tries to forge a path, but it is like walking through waist-deep water, exhausting, slow, and all the while more pumice falls, adding to the accumulation, making each step harder than the last. Prima cannot keep up. She struggles, crying, falling behind. Lucia, burdened with Quintus, can barely move at all. After 10 minutes of brutal effort, they have traveled less than one street. Marcus stops. His legs burn. His lungs ache from breathing the ash-filled air. Around them, Pompeii is disappearing beneath the grey flood of pumice. Buildings are already half buried. Some have collapsed entirely, their roofs unable to bear the weight. We cannot make it, Lucia says. She is not accusing, just stating fact. Marcus wants to argue, wants to insist they can survive this if they just try harder, move faster. But he looks at the pumice accumulation already thigh-deep and rising, and he knows she is right. They cannot outrun this. Back, he says, back to the bakery. At least there we have shelter, walls we know. Maybe, he trails off. Maybe what? Maybe the eruption will stop? Maybe rescue will come? Maybe they will wake up and discover this has all been a nightmare? They turn back east, toward home. The journey is slightly easier going downhill, with gravity helping, but not much. Marcus carries Prima for the last stretch. She is too big to carry easily, but he does it anyway, feeling his back scream in protest, feeling his legs threaten to give out. They reach the Via dell'Abbondanza, their street, home. The bakery is still standing, though pumice has piled against its walls and begun to drift through the open shutters. The oven, his father's oven, the oven that has been the center of his working life, is half buried. They stumble inside. Marcus collapses against the wall, gasping. Lucia sets Quintus down. The baby has finally stopped crying. He lies listless and silent, too silent. Lucia touches his forehead, and her face goes pale. He is burning up, she whispers. Marcus, he has a fever. Of course he does. The ash, the heat, the terror, it is too much for an infant. Marcus knows this. He can see it in Quintus's glazed eyes and flushed cheeks, but there is nothing he can do. No doctor will come tonight. No medicine exists that can help. They can only wait and hope. Prima is shaking. Whether from fear or cold or exhaustion, Marcus cannot tell. Probably all three. He pulls her close, wrapping both of them in one of the ash-covered blankets. We stay here, he says, together, as a family, and we survive this. But even as he says the words, he can feel the lie in them. The pumice continues to fall. The accumulation continues to rise. Already it has reached the windowsill. Soon it will begin pouring in more freely. Eventually it will fill the entire ground floor. They need to go upstairs, to the living quarters where the ceiling is lower and the single window is smaller, where they can block the openings and buy themselves time. Marcus gets to his feet. Upstairs, bring everything. They climb the narrow stairway to the room above the bakery, their home, the space where Marcus and Lucia sleep, where their children were born, where ordinary life happens, or happened, past tense now. Marcus blocks the stairway as best he can, stuffing blankets and cloth into the opening to slow the encroaching pumice. It will not hold forever, but maybe it will buy them hours. Maybe it will buy them until morning when, perhaps, the eruption will end and they can dig their way out. He knows he is lying to himself, but the lie is all he has left. Night comes, or rather, what should be night. In truth, darkness has reigned since early afternoon when the eruption began. Time has lost meaning. There is only the constant roar of falling pumice, the thunder of collapsing buildings, the screams that periodically echo through the buried streets. Marcus sits against the wall of his bedroom. Prima is on one side of him, Lucia on the other. Quintus lies in Lucia's lap, his breathing shallow. The fever has worsened. Marcus knows what this means. He has seen enough death to recognize it when it sits in his own home. The room is dark. The single oil lamp they lit hours ago has burned down to nothing. They have no more oil, so they sit in darkness, feeling the building shudder with each new quake, listening to the world end around them. "Tell me about the farm," Lucia says softly. "Tell me about the place where we will go after this ends." It is a game they have played before, during hard times, during the lean winters, when money was scarce. They would imagine a life away from the city, a small farm in the countryside, chickens, a goat, a garden, nothing grand, just simple and safe. There is a stream, Marcus says, his voice rough from breathing ash. Clear water, Prima can play in it during summer, and fruit trees, fig trees, apple trees. We will have shade and sweet fruit. And I will make cheese, Lucia adds, better than the cheese we buy here, fresh and soft. And I will learn to weave, Prima whispers. Mother will teach me. We will make cloth to sell at market. Yes, Marcus says, and I will. He trails off. What will he do on this imaginary farm? He is a baker. Baking is all he knows. I will build an oven, a small one. We will make bread for ourselves and our neighbors. Good bread, Prima says. The best bread. The best bread, Marcus agrees. They fall silent. The lie is too fragile to sustain. They all know there will be no farm, no stream, no fruit trees. There is only this room, this darkness, this ending. Lucia begins to sing. An old lullaby, the same one her mother sang to her, the same one she has sung to all her children. Her voice is thin and cracked, but the melody is there. Marcus remembers his own mother singing the same song, decades ago, when the world was safe and certain. Prima joins in. Then Marcus, his deep voice harmonizing with theirs. They sing to Quintus, who may or may not be able to hear. They sing to each other. They sing to keep the darkness at bay for a few moments more. The building shudders. A deep, grinding sound comes from below. The pumice has reached the ceiling of the ground floor. The weight is becoming too much. Soon the floor they sit on will collapse, and they will fall into the buried bakery, into the accumulated stone, into the earth that is reclaiming Pompeii. Marcus pulls his family closer. He feels Prima's tears on his shoulder. He feels Lucia's hand gripping his. He feels the fading warmth of his son in his arms. I am sorry, he whispers. I am sorry I did not leave when we could have. I am sorry I thought bread mattered more than your lives. I am sorry. You could not have known, Lucia says. None of us could have known. But that is not true, people warned him. Stephanus warned him. Gaius warned him. The mountain itself warned him with its smoke and its earthquakes and its fury. He simply did not listen. He chose to believe his small world was permanent, that catastrophe happened to other people, that the mathematics of survival included only the visible threats of debt and hunger and competition. He was wrong. And now his family will die because of that wrongness. The floor tilts. Someone screams Prima, he thinks, or maybe Lucia, or maybe himself. The world becomes motion and noise and choking dust. They are falling, tumbling, buried. Marcus holds tight to his family. It is all he can do. Hold tight and wait for it to end. In the year 79 of the Common Era, Mount Vesuvius erupted with catastrophic force. The eruption lasted approximately 19 hours. Pompeii was buried under 13 to 20 feet of pumice and ash. An estimated 2,000 people died, trapped by the eruption or killed by toxic gases and pyroclastic surges. The city remained buried for 1,700 years. When archaeologists finally excavated Pompeii in the 18th and 19th centuries, they found a city frozen in time. Bread still sat in ovens. Bodies lay where they fell. Graffiti on walls spoke of ordinary concerns: elections, love, business disputes. In one bakery on the Via dell'Abbondanza, excavators found the remains of a stone oven still containing carbonized loaves of bread. They found bronze scales hanging from a beam. They found a family, a man, a woman, a teenage girl, an infant, huddled together in an upper room, preserved in the ash that killed them. The man's hands, the archaeologists noted, were heavily calloused in a pattern consistent with someone who worked dough every day of his life. They had been a family of bakers. They had stayed to finish their work. They had believed the ordinary world would continue. They had been wrong. Pompeii stands today as a memorial to that wrongness, to the fragility of human certainty, to the moment when normal life became catastrophe and there was no going back, to the last ordinary day before the world ended,